NT Media Productions presents I'm Making It Happen.
It seems like the VI lottery is the way to go. Skibbity bitty pop pop, I told her the man stop pop. Skibbity bitty pop boom, well when I just come in the room. Skibbity bitty pop pop, the VI lottery hot. Skibbity bitty pop boom, all my friend them winning too. Thanks to the VI lottery, I have special money. I had the winning ticket to help and support my family. Thanks to the VI lottery.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of I'm Making It Happen with exceptionally yours, Nykole Tyson. And you know, I'm always excited for the conversation. And today we're honored to have the VI Insurance Association with us today. We're going to learn so much about the various insurance options. And specifically, we have Ms. Sandra Harty, who is the president of the association, as well as representing Inter-Ocean Insurance. And we also have Mr. John Harper. He's the vice president of the Insurance Association, and he's also representing Marshall and Sterling. Welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Insurance affects everyone. You can have it for your automobile, for your home, valuables, your commercial buildings. I mean, the list can go on. And it can be very confusing. Especially when it comes to homeowners and auto. So we appreciate you for taking the time to educate the public, and so that they're more informed, so they can make better decisions and be covered when there is a loss. What prompted your interest to connect with the public?
After Maria, and we saw the devastation in the territory and how people were affected as individuals. I mean, John and I were face to face with our clients just as our other members are. And, it was kind of heartbreaking for us to see some of our clients coming to us thinking that they had coverage for one thing or another and finding out that they did not because they did not understand. So we made it our business to try to be more visible over the past few years, and we've been going out and doing, meetings with various other associations, such as the Board of Realtors, and, doing, like yourself, a television presentation on the radio, and just trying to get the same messages across. Because as you said, insurance is confusing, so people usually don't pay attention, but if we keep repeating the same thing over and over, we hope that people will start to understand eventually.
Yeah. I think this is really, really appropriate and needed, especially for the time of year that we're in, right? The time of the season that we're in, and then also, just ongoing. It can be confusing, and even when people do purchase their insurance and they think that they're covered, and then they might not be covered for the things that's really important when a loss does occur. Tell us about the VI Insurance Association. What is its mission and purpose?
So the VI Insurance Association has actually been around for several decades in the territory, and we are a unified group of local insurance companies, insurance agents and brokers, adjusting firms. We have about 18 members currently, and our mission is primarily to educate the community, and as you said before, so that we have informed consumers, insurance consumers. We also work with lobbying for appropriate legislations where we see it necessary for the industry as a whole, that's going to be for the betterment of the community, because things change constantly, and even though our insureds throughout the territory deal directly with their individual insurers, their insurance companies or agents on an individual basis, but the group as a whole are constantly working behind the scenes to just make sure that we are on top of all the various changes worldwide and the territory that's going to affect us. So that's primarily our purpose.
I just have a question to piggyback on that. So I know you said that the clients or customers deal specifically with their insurance companies, but is there any cases that come directly that the board as a whole may deal with? If there's an issue?
No, not on an individual basis. So if you have a problem as an individual, you're going to speak with your agent or your broker on an individual basis. But the group in it as a whole, we are the ones that are constantly monitoring what's going on in the world as far as insurance and catastrophes and the changes and the rate changes and everything. So we're constantly meeting and, as a board or as a group to discuss the situation. Is there anything that we need to do differently in the territory? Are there changes that we need to see being made at the legislative level? If we see legislation coming through, we will discuss it and see how is it going to affect the public, how is it going to affect the whole insurance industry in general, and make suggestions or whatever we need to do.
Okay. The VIA Association, what is it comprised of? Of individuals? Who are the individuals comprised of that?
We have about 18 insurance companies, agents, and adjusters, and then we have a board. So the board is comprised of myself as the president, John Harper as the vice president. We have Treasurer Sherry Charles from Family Insurance. We have the other board members such as Lynn Millin from Naush Hogan Murray, Joe Brugas from Caribbean Risk Group, Megan Richardson from Cornerstone Insurance Agency. Okay. So it's combined St. Thomas and St. John, and the St. Croix, all three islands is a combined group.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So everybody has a car. If they have insurance or not, and we get into that. So tell us, what are the important things that individuals should know about having automobile insurance in the territory?
Well, automobile insurance is mandatory in the territory, and a lot of people don't know that it was not mandatory for a while between 1985 and 2001. There was a shortage of capacity of automobile insurance, and mandatory auto insurance was repealed in 1985. Reinstituted in 2001, I believe, and the limits of the mandatory requirement are $10,000 per person, $20,000 per accident for bodily injury, and $10,000 per accident for property damage, which are not very substantial limits, obviously. If you injure somebody seriously, $10,000 doesn't go very far. But I think more practically, on a day-to-day basis, if you damage somebody's vehicle, you can do $10,000 damage without a whole lot of trouble. So if you damage somebody's vehicle, and perhaps it's a new vehicle that costs $30,000, $40,000, that you're not going to be fully insured for that. But the concept of mandatory insurance is very important. There needs to be, as there is in every U.S. jurisdiction, some sort of financial responsibility for the driver on the road, so that they can be somehow responsible for negligence that they may create and damages that they may cause. In the Virgin Islands, there are modest limits of, as I said, $10,000, $20,000, and $10,000, but at least we have the mandatory insurance so that people can get something if they're damaged or injured.
Okay. And so that's just liability?
Just liability insurance, yes, is mandatory.
Are they able to increase those limits?
Most insurance agencies and companies have the opportunity to increase the limits. Some have the ability to increase limits higher. The next general limit, I guess, is $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident for bodily injury, and $25,000 per accident for property damage. Other companies can offer higher limits. Sometimes they're only available if you own a home and insure it with that agency. But there should be higher limits available from most insurers. Another important part of the auto insurance is physical damage coverage for the vehicle itself. If you buy a new vehicle and you have a bank loan, the bank's going to expect that you have collision and comprehensive insurance. Collision being damage that's caused in a collision, and comprehensive is everything else that might happen. Windstorm damage, theft, fire, things like that.
Oh, great. I never really thought about the car insurance for windstorm.
There was hundreds of millions of dollars paid out after the 2017 hurricanes. Yeah.
Great. Oh, right. But just to know, that's good that they did have the coverage and they were able to get the help with that. Really, right now they're mandatory for liability, and there's some individuals that might have an older car and they want to insure it at full. Is it called?
Some people call it full coverage. It's kind of a misnomer because nothing is really full coverage. It covers everything. Mm-hmm. But full coverage typically means liability coverage and physical damage coverage. And there's some limited availability on older vehicles from some insurers. But if there's a bank loan involved, typically we can insure older vehicles as well. One thing I'd like to say about general insurance, following up on your introduction, is that Sandra and I take our job seriously in trying to educate our clients and the general public as part of the Insurance Association. And it's insurance is not the most exciting topic. It's not something that lights up people at cocktail parties or that people really want to learn about. So we've taken the opportunity to get out there and try to kind of force feed people as we can and help them understand, because as Sandra mentioned after the storms, it's heartbreaking to see people that don't fully understand their insurance. So I would implore everybody that's watching and everybody who in your family and friends circle, take some time, read your insurance policy, get to know it, and ask your insurance agent if you have any questions. That's really an important thing.
This topic of autos, before we go into homeowners, can you just tell us about why is the rates increasing?
Rates have not increased actually for many years in the Virgin Islands. Homeowners insurance has remained fairly stagnant rates up until 2017. In 2017, of course, we had 2 Category 5 hurricanes that hit us, and the same year, Hurricane Harvey in Houston, of course, and then since then there's been many hurricanes. But the rates increased because the insurers, one of their main costs is buying reinsurance. The insurance companies that do business here don't retain 100% of the risk that they take on. They will go to reinsurers to buy reinsurance to insure their company if a large catastrophe should happen. And if the catastrophes aren't happening very often, that reinsurance is inexpensive. When catastrophes happen more frequently, as they have been, that reinsurance becomes more expensive. And since that's the #1 cost of the insurance companies, whenever their cost of reinsurance goes up, they have to pass that on to the insureds.
What is the importance, or what are some factors that we need to know regarding selling a vehicle?
Okay, so we've had a problem in the territory because a lot of people do not understand what are the steps involved when you sell a used vehicle to someone else, to another individual. And the way that the current law exists is that if you sell your vehicle to someone else and they don't go and register it at motor vehicle in their own name, then if they're driving and they never got insurance, never registered their vehicle, and they have an accident, that liability is going to come back on the previous owner. So that's been happening so frequently. People come into our offices every day, John's office, my office, everybody else's office that sell insurance, and they come and they present to us just the title signed over to the other person, and they want to cancel their insurance and get a refund. Yeah. But we have to point out to them that's not how the law works. And what we're doing is we're trying to educate the public again, and we're trying to do it in a way that they'll remember the 3 things that they need to, and this is a simplification, but we call it the 3 R's. You want to make sure that you remove your stickers from your windshield, you remove your plates, and then you can once you do that and return that to motor vehicle, then you can come and then you can ask for a refund on your policy as far as the liability portion is concerned. Okay? You can definitely take off the comp and collision of your own vehicle, but that liability, you cannot take it off until we have proof that that other person that you sold the vehicle to registered that vehicle at motor vehicle, okay, and that your name is out of the system, because the way it works is that it's the person's name that's in that database at BMV that has the ultimate liability for that vehicle.
So you have to make sure that they register the vehicle?
Yes. It's your responsibility as a seller to make sure that that gets done. I mean, even if they go, you got to make sure that they're coming to show you that they did this. Do not just sign the title over and then hand them the car with your plates and sticker, because guess what? They're going to drive off and they're like, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, and they're just happily driving.
You've seen instances where this has happened?
All the time.
Wow.
All the time.
Then the responsibility is on me, even though I sold my car, but they didn't register it.
Right.
Interesting.
The actual requirement is that you cancel the registration, but it's much simpler to cancel the registration and have the new registered owner register it at the same time. And that new registration is evidence that the registration's been canceled and changed.
Yeah, you do have the option of bringing us that canceled registration. So you yourself, you're selling your vehicle, you can go and you can get your registration canceled. That takes your liability out of the, out of the system, because your name is now out of the system. Now it's up to that person that you sold it to go do their due diligence and do what they need to do.
So go to motor vehicles and cancel my registration?
You can do that, and you present us with a stamped canceled registration. We can use that to cancel your policy, because now we know that you did what you had to do at motor vehicle.
Okay, perfect. Well, you heard it here. To be educated and informed, that for this section of the episode in regards to automobile insurance, we learned about the coverages, and now we also learned about the right way to sell your vehicle. And so we learned that you have to
remove your plates, remove your stickers, and return them to motor vehicles. And then you get a canceled registration once you do that. You can present that to your insurance company.
Well, this is the VIA Insurance Association. We have Ms. Sandra Harty and Mr. John Harper, and they're providing very important information in regards to insurance coverage and the options. First, we start off with automobiles, and now we're going to get into homeowners after we take this break.
There are many ways to enjoy life, like so many ways to count on Popular.
I think I need a change up. And Carlos Furniture have the thing them. Think I need a new sofa. And just wash up for all my dish them. Right here on Island, all these things you'll find. Just head to Carlos Furniture and spend some time. They have brands like G, Serta, Simmons, Posturepedic. They can furnish any room, any day that you need it. Carlos Furniture, they're the best of the best. Carlos Furniture, to Park St. Thomas and Croix Peter's Rest. Carlos Furniture, 30 years in the biz. Carlos Furniture, quality in the name.
Carlos Furniture delivers 7 days a week, can provide white glove service, and can deliver to the BVI. Carlos Furniture, the place the Caribbean gets its furniture for the past 30 years.
Welcome back, and you're watching I'm Making It Happen. And as you know, if you were with us before the break, you'll know that we have the VI Insurance Association with us, specifically Miss Sandra Harty, and we have Mr. John Harper. And Miss Sandra Harty, she is the president of the VI Insurance Association, and Mr. Harper is the vice president, representing Interocean Insurance, representing Marshall and Sterling. And so before the break, we learned about the automobile insurance, the importance of how you should sell your car, and then also the coverages. And now we're going to go into homeowners insurance. How should we be looking at going about obtaining homeowners insurance?
Right. So when you are ready to buy your home and or condo unit, whatever, then of course, even if you don't have a mortgage, you still want to insure your assets. A lot of times it is your largest asset that you have for a while. So you want to go and you want to speak to various agents and brokers and try to find the best rate for your property insurance. You want to go and you want to make sure that you're even understanding the type of coverages that you want to buy. So go and sit down and let them go over what are the components that you need to look for when you're buying a homeowner policy, because a homeowner policy is going to be covering the property itself, meaning the dwelling, okay, but you may also have other structures that's not attached to your dwelling, so you want to make sure that you're identifying everything that you want to insure. If it's a good idea to get an appraisal, okay, and that will give you a very good idea of the value of the property, and we're talking about the cost to rebuild. You want to make sure that you're insuring your property, what's the cost to rebuild your house, and the other structures around. Those are the main components. Now a homeowner policy is kind of like a package policy, so you're going to be getting not just your property insurance, but you're going to get some liability insurance attached to that as well. So you definitely want to sit down and speak with your agent and broker and get familiar with.
One of the key things that you mentioned is that even if you don't have a mortgage, you should still get insurance.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because you might not even be thinking about that.
Yeah, because you're investing if it's all your money, why would you stand to lose all of that money? Because it's not just hurricane that we're talking about. Insurance is going to cover a wide range of perils. You're talking about what we call perils in the insurance industry is what's going to damage your property. And there are hurricanes, as you all know, but a lot of people don't think about things like fire and earthquake. You know, those are things that you need to consider. And even though we can predict hurricanes, we know they're coming, you get the warnings, you never can do that very far in advance with an earthquake, although VITEMA sends out a lot of notifications. We are in the zone. We haven't seen a major earthquake here, but we're in the zone, and believe it or not, we have paid out earthquake claims due to tremors, repeated tremors in the territory, yeah. So if you do not have that coverage, then you're going to be, you know, left paying for that out of your own pocket. Fires, you cannot predict a fire. You know, there are electrical fires. There have been several fire claims that have been paid out over the years. So why would you want to put your house at risk? We see a lot of buildings around on all islands that are in decrepit buildings because they have not been rebuilt since as far back as Hugo. A lot of that's because people did not have insurance and they just weren't able to do it.
I guess also people that live in flood zones.
I was just about to say, yes, you also want to consider flood. Now, flood is not normally a part of your typical homeowner policy, all right? So you would normally have to buy that separately. In other islands, maybe in some of the other islands, they're actually part of the policy, but not in this U.S. territory. It's a separate policy. So you make sure that you're talking to your agent broker, and if you have a mortgage, the bank is going to identify also that you're in a flood zone and you have to buy flood insurance. But even if you're not in a flood zone, you should also consider it as, you know, as an option.
I just want to reinforce the importance of insuring to value. As Sandra said, it's the replacement cost that you want to home in on. The bank may accept insurance to the amount of the mortgage, which isn't the right amount, unless it's the same as the replacement cost, which is not usually the case. You need to get away from the purchase price. The purchase price isn't what you need to insure for. What you need to insure for is the cost to rebuild. And that's the entire cost to rebuild, including the foundation, the cistern, patios, pool, all of that, which can really add up quickly. Concrete's expensive, as anybody who's built a home on St. Croix knows. So it's important to get the right value in insurance. And even if you decide not to insure, at least you'll understand what the risk is that you're taking yourself. So it's important for everybody to understand really what the replacement cost of the property is, and then make the choice whether they want to insure or not. But if you're going to insure, the insurance company expects that you insure, that you should insure to 100%, but typically it's a minimum of 80 or 90% of the full replacement cost.
So we're looking at making sure that we are insured 100%. I know we talked about before, we were talking about like the 80%, like what if somebody doesn't do that, and what is really the penalties, and if they, you know, so just say somebody needs to just make sure they get it and making sure that they're not underinsured. It's at least 80% so they don't have the penalty. And can you explain, go into that more?
Yeah, co-insurance is a difficult.
Okay, so this is now we're in co-insurance.
We're getting into co-insurance.
Okay, wait.
Yes.
So we're getting into different things. So we're talking about making sure that we were insured to value. Right, yeah. Now we're transitioning into co-insurance. Right. Can you explain that? Because, I
need a blackboard and a couple of hours, actually, to explain it. But it's really not that complicated. But it's different than health insurance. Some people know co-insurance from health insurance. The company pays 80%, you pay 20%. That's not what it is in property insurance. In property insurance, the insurance company has a requirement that you insure a certain percentage of the value of your property, and it's typically 80%, but it can vary per policy, but it's typically 80%. And what they say is that their rate that they set assumes that you're insuring to 80%, because their risk, if you choose to insure for 20%, their risk for that 20% is much higher, because the chance of losing that 20% is much greater than losing the full 80%. So the rate that they're using, let's say the rate is 2%. On a $100,000 building, that's a $2,000 premium. They want you to insure to 80% as a minimum of that $100,000 building. And I know this is a little bit complicated, but as long as you meet that requirement of insuring 80%, they'll pay your full claim up to the limit of the policy. If you don't insure to 80%, let's say you insure to 50% of what you should have insured for, then the insurance company didn't get the premium that they believe they were entitled to insure that house. They will pay, in that case, 50% of your claim, which, as Sandra and I have both experienced, the last thing a homeowner or business owner wants to hear after a hurricane damages their property is, not only do I have to sustain my deductible, but I've got to actually pay half of my claim because I'm underinsured. That's a very difficult thing to explain to a client after they've had a serious loss. So this is one of the main messages Sandra and I want to get out to the public, the insurance buying public, is make sure you're adequately insured to avoid surprises.
Anything else you want to add to that?
I want to add to that me, an insurance agent, after Irma, I'm Maria because I'm on St. Croix, I was underinsured. I was underinsured and I was penalized. I did not expect to be underinsured. I was not expecting a hurricane, just like a lot of you consumers, thinking my house was, built like a solid rock, but unfortunately I lost a good portion of my roof with a lot of water damage. And when the adjuster came, guess what? I was underinsured. And we don't get any breaks. I mean, as a matter of fact, the fact that I'm an insurance agent, they'd probably want to penalize me more because I should have known better. Yeah, so it's a sad story, but yeah, we were underinsured as well. So what I want to point out to people is that do not think that the insurance company is telling you that, I mean, we use 80% because that's, mostly what the percentages are, but we don't want you to get in your mind, carved in your mind that they're telling you that when you go to buy your policy, you're only supposed to buy 80%. Really and truly, that 80% applies at the time of loss. So if you buy at 80% when you're buying your policy, and you don't increase over time, and if you went and added something to your house, you added a porch, you added a carport or whatever, then your values have increased. Plus inflation have already eaten up a part of that 80%. So it's at the time of loss, a year later, 2 years later, you bought at 80%, 2 years later, you're still at that 80%. Of course you're gonna be underinsured.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, because now people will be like, okay, well, she's an agent and this happened to her, well, then who is me, right? And so definitely we appreciate you being authentic about that and sharing that story, because now people really understand, like, it's everybody that has to make sure that they are responsible for.
Worldwide thing. People think it's just the Virgin Islands. That's not the case. Okay.
And that in regards to being underinsured?
Yeah, that co-insurance clause, it's a built-in clause in property insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, basically, from what I understand, what you put in, like a bank account, is what you're going to get back. And so if you don't put in enough, when it's come time for your loss, then you're not going to get back enough to cover it.
You said it.
Okay, great. Okay, I just understand that part. And so thank you so much for sticking with us. And as you know, we're here with the VIA Insurance Association, and we're learning so much about the different coverages. We first learned about the automobile insurance coverages and the importance of, how you should sell your vehicle. Now we're learning about the importance of insuring your home to value, what co-insurance is, and we learned about a specific personal story. So we're gonna learn more about home insurance, homeowners insurance, right after this break. So don't go anywhere.
It seems like the VI lottery is the way to go. Skibbity pop pop, I told her the man's not hot. Skibbity pop boom, well I wanna just come in the room. Skibbity pop pop, the VI lottery hot. Skibbity pop boom, all my friend them winning too. Thanks to the VI lottery, I have special money. I had the winning ticket to help and support my family. Thanks to the VI lottery.
This was an NT Media production. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. It's a sociable thing to do.